Hey everybody, Alvie for Mobile Cup of Joe's What's Brewing. Welcome everybody. I'm so glad that you guys are here. So glad that you have decided to join us. And we've got a bunch of stuff to go over. We've got a bunch of stuff to give away. We've got a bunch of news going on. First off, let me just go ahead and get started. Let me introduce you to the brew crew. Starting from my left to right as usual. We'll start with the ones and zeros, Mr. Chuck Haines. Everybody say hey, Chuck. Chuck, say hey.
Evening all.
Chuck.
Hey, Chuck.
Moving right next to the back to the dead, Fred. Everybody say hey, Fred, and Fred say hey.
Hey guys.
Howdy, Fred.
Hopefully it's from the dead and not to the dead. That's the
Yeah, back to the
wrong
Fred.
direction,
No,
my friend.
from the dead. Next up is Mobile Cup of Joe. Everybody say hey, Joe, and Joe say hey.
What's going on, everybody?
And then there's we have an official name for Tony. We've been playing back and forth. Had to come up with a nickname for him. So it's Spec Sheet because he's always interested in specs and definitely 3 gigs of RAM. So that's what we should have called him, 3 gigs. But anyway, everybody say hey, Tony, and Tony say hey.
Hey guys.
Hey, Tony.
And a special guest tonight we've got from Tech Dissected, Mr. Nick. Nick, say hey, and everybody say hey.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Nick.
And then very special guest from GadgtSpot, Patrick Campanale. Everybody say hey, Patrick, and Patrick say hey.
Howdy, guys.
What's going on, Patrick?
Excellent.
Hey, Patrick.
And once again, I'm the bearded barista Alvie. I'm so glad that you're here with us for What's Brewing. We've got a lot of stuff to go over. We've got inbox from Google, so we've got some OnePlus One news. We've got the LG G Watch R news, some Microsoft news, more LG news, and of course our Espresso Shot and a whole bunch of opinions. So let's get right to it. Reminders, Q&A is available right now, and it is live. So if you want to win inbox invites, or if you want some of these fantastic cases that Patrick's got, Patrick, you've got them handy, I hope, and you can show those up to the boys and girls.
I do.
Go ahead.
We've got this one, which is one of the HTC Duo cases, and then just a slew of other cases to pick from for the Nexus 5 and the original HTC One M7. They're all cruiser light, of course, and I've got 4 HTC One M7 cases and then 1 Nexus 5 case. So, I'll just kind of show those again here. There's the Nexus 5, and so yeah, we've got all kinds of good stuff to give away.
Excellent, tons of stuff. So, excellent. Yeah. So in the Q&A, hit that up and put your name, put some questions if you've got some for any of the crew here. We've got a bunch of people in here, so if you've got questions as we go, an opinion about something, or just want to win one of these cases, or like an inbox invite, which it's spoiler alert, it's a very sexy app. So we'll get into that here in a bit, though. But leave a comment in the Q&A. You can leave a comment in the on the YouTube channel. You can leave it on the event page, anywhere like that, and we'll try to get you entered in to win some of this fantastic stuff. So welcome, viewers, if you're live or watching this later on YouTube, and welcome, podcast. We'll share that information again so you can get signed up for that, because that's kind of our new thing, and we're super excited about it. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. What is brewing? What's some freshly brewed news? Chuck and Fred, go.
Well, today, go ahead, Fred. I guess the thing that everybody's buzzing about right now is Inbox by Google. We got word of it a little while ago and went live yesterday, I believe. And day before yesterday, the first invites went out. And I guess by yesterday, last night, and today, most people here have started getting invites by now. Most of us have gotten in. I just got in actually a few hours ago, so I have not gotten too much time to play with it. But basically, what we've got here is a more it's a very different formatting. It's got a material kind of look to it, but it's a more, in some ways, more complex inbox. There are a lot more categories than we've seen before, and the purpose of this, aside from giving us a place to unify all of our multiple email addresses, is to give people like me and many other people out there that have thousands and thousands of messages clogging up our inboxes more ways that we can manipulate these things and try to get to the elusive empty inbox that presumably we all want to get at. But I'm going to pass it back to some of you guys that I think have had a little more time to play with the actual program than I have.
Well, me personally, it's a very different mindset for email. It's kind of email redefined. I know some of you guys have like dove into it a little more, but I'm like changing my mindset to like how I view and respond and react to emails. I don't know, Chuck, you have too, and Tony, you've mentioned it too. So share a little bit about what you guys have experienced with your inbox.
Well, a couple things. So I'll give you a couple forewarnings. First off, things that I found. So I never archived any of my email in Gmail. So I was one of those guys who just left everything in his inbox. So I had almost 11 years worth of email in my inbox, which equated to about 45,000 emails, give or take. So what I found when I first loaded up Inbox was that they want you to reach this thing called Inbox Zero, and Inbox by Google is not the first person to come up with this Inbox Zero notion. I don't know how long it's been around, but it's kind of the idea of a way of triaging your email such that you keep nothing in your inbox unless you're going to action it right then and there. So if you're not going to action it, you might snooze it, or swipe it away, or have it come back some other time, which is exactly what Inbox does. So what you will find is that any emails you don't have archived will be in your inbox in Inbox, just like they are in Gmail. So the one thing I found out was there's a little sweep tool which will actually let you take the emails and mark them as done, which is just like kind of archiving them in Gmail. However, the difference is in Inbox, the date of the done is the date that you swipe the email away. So what I found out was that 11 years worth of emails, all of a sudden in the done tab in Inbox has it done of yesterday. So I have 45,000 emails dated yesterday in my inbox. So that's one caveat. If you do have a lot of emails that you don't archive, you may have that one day all of a sudden in Inbox where there's everything that's done. But that's the only kind of problem I found so far. Other than that, it's really cool. Like I said, I'm not a zero inbox kind of guy, but I've been trying to do it with Inbox, and it's pretty cool. So as emails come in, I either triage them, I can snooze them. So when you snooze an email, you can snooze it for a certain period of time. You can tell it to come back at a certain day and time. It's got some default options. I think tomorrow is an option, which comes back at like 7 a.m. the next day. Tonight, which will come back at 7 p.m. You can set a specific time, or you can actually set a location so that it will come back to you when you reach a certain location, which is kind of cool. So it's really kind of Google's take on how do we improve email, because the average person gets hundreds of emails a day. Well, how do you efficiently deal with those emails? And Google will automatically categorize it, so it takes the notion of those 4 tabs that were in Gmail and kind of supercharges them. There's a whole bunch of more prioritization. It bundles things. You can have those bundles show up in your inbox or not. You can have them alert you or not. And then Google will also search in those emails for important bits of information. If it's, for example, a receipt from something you purchased, it'll kind of bring that to the top so you can see it. Overall, it's powered, my understanding is, by the same backend that powers Google Now. So it's supposed to be super intelligent, kind of the new way of dealing with email. I like it so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, you talk about the Google Now thing. I'm doing stuff in Google Now that's coming into my inbox. That kind of blew me away, like just the integration of and it wasn't anything big. It was like a reminder or something like that. But just any type of synergy like that, kind of the first time you see it, blows you away. Like, whoa, these things are talking, and like, which makes sense with the location reporting and all that kind of stuff. Still, but yeah, I mean, you want to talk about mind change. For me, that's the hardest part for me is getting into. Email is not like it was in the 90s. and Inbox is trying to change me that way. And you know me, I'm just a regular old dude. I'm some dude. And that's the hardest part. I love it, absolutely love it. It's gorgeous. It's fun to play with my emails, which that's weird to say. I love it. What do you guys think? Anybody else got an opinion on it?
I've had Inbox on my phone. I just got an invite today, and I've been using it for maybe since 4 o'clock this afternoon. And I'm someone who I try to regularly. I get a lot of emails from different PR contacts for devices I got come in, and I have a lot of tracking numbers I got to manage throughout the weeks. And I usually try to archive all of my emails. If it's something junky, I'll try to archive it right away. And I am someone that kind of takes advantage of the on Gmail, your primary inbox, your social kind of social networking emails, and then your promotions, kind of the default tabs that Gmail has already. And I always kind of use those, and I do like how Google filters those out. But as Chuck was saying, in inbox, those 3 or 4 tabs, whatever it is, on Gmail are completely revamped. You've got stuff for finance, you've got promotions, social, your primary inbox, but then you also have ones for like packages, purchases, and it's just all categorized. And Google, I was looking through there, they do a heck of a job categorizing everything, filtering everything out just how you want it. And I also like, too, if I was going through all my purchases, because I had to get a replacement for my Samsung Gear Live, I was scrolling through the purchases one, and actually for that email that I got from my Gear Live confirmation order with the tracking number, it showed a picture of the Gear Live in that little stream of the emails. And also for, say, a calendar event or something you have coming up, it'll show kind of an image again with the date of when that event's coming up with the name of the event there. So it's a very, very pretty looking app, and sure kicks the butt out of the standard Gmail app that's on Android phones by default. One thing I kind of noted, though, if you are someone who not a very active user of email, you maybe use it to send emails to friends and family, you pretty much keep it cleaned out as much as possible. The application really isn't going to redefine how you use email, but if you are someone who you get a lot of emails in throughout the day, you are constantly checking it, it is going to really help you, because I try to keep my inbox organized as much as I can, but this really has helped out a ton with just auto-filtering, and like Alvie was mentioning too, with the reminders in there, because I set voice reminders on my phone on Google Now all the time. I'll say, okay, Google, and then I'll say, remind me to do so-and-so this time. I'm sorry for anyone who's watching this and I just set up their Google Now on their Moto X or something, but it is nice because like I check my email throughout the day, and I do that a lot more than I check Google Keep or Google Now for my reminders. So having those reminders be an inbox as well, like it's just that cohesiveness and everything tying together really is special, because it's nothing really too big. It's in the grand scheme of things, it's a really simple addition, but just having reminders in your emails in one application, being able to remind you at times or where you are, your location, it's a very nice app, and I'm really excited to use it throughout the next week and for quite a while now. And it is really nice. My only thing that I kind of am concerned about is how Google is going to kind of tell people that inbox is Gmail, but it's not replacing Gmail. I can see that being kind of confusing, because when I first heard about it, I was not sure if it was replacing Gmail or if it was an addition to Gmail, if it'd be replacing the Gmail app. So I do think they have kind of a little hiccup they got to get over with that, telling people, you know, it's still Gmail and Gmail is still going to be the same, but then inbox is just a different way to view your inbox. So I'm really liking it so far, and I'm really excited to see what other people think about it as they get those invites in their hand, which hopefully we'll be able to get some in your hands tonight as the show goes on.
The thing that I noticed with Inbox just since I've had it is, one, first of all, the first thing that jumps out to probably everybody who's opened the app is the material design. And like when you said it was gorgeous, I mean, that's such an understatement. I mean, this is the first app that I've used that is fully 100% material design by Google standards. Obviously, it's from Google, so it makes sense. But still, I mean, everything you touch, everything every little option you change is all material, 100%, moving around, changing size, shifting on the screen, and it just feels so natural, and it's so carries over so well to the web interface. It looks exactly the same, just bigger and on a computer screen. It's fantastic. Now, to piggyback on what Joe said about the labels that Google tried to implement pretty unsuccessfully, from what I understand, a couple months ago or a year ago with the promos, social, and was it primary? As soon as that happened, I went and took all those disabled those in all my Gmail accounts because I couldn't stand it. But the way that it works here is so much better, and you can choose to be, notified of each one. I think that the things that stick out to me as far as features in the app, as I've used Gmail for so long that I'm not used to a lot of the way that regular email apps work. But just for instance, Fred recently had a show in New York City, a music show, and he emailed us an invite, and that included some pictures here. I know it's pretty hard to see, but you can see the pictures there that are just popped up that I don't know if they were actually attached to the email or if this was searched some other way, but they're visible right there in the inbox. And the other thing that I really, really enjoyed is I'm the type of person that if I get an email that I don't want to address right away, I will actually leave it and not click on it, not open the notification, because I want it to be there in my notification bar when I get home or when I get to a place where I can pop my laptop out and deal with that email. Because I look at my phone so often, I want to look there and be like, oh yes, email, I have to respond, or I have to deal with this email somehow. So yesterday I was out and Netflix emailed me. Now this is a pretty silly use, but it works so well because Netflix emails me, says, hey, I watched season 1 of a show called Freak Show about this sideshow in Venice Beach. It says, hey, season 2 of Freak Show's on Netflix now. Well, I want to remember that because when I get home and I have to sit down and work from my couch for 8 hours, I want to have something to put on. So instead of just clicking on that and then forgetting about it later or leaving it in my email, I can go ahead and just swipe it to the right or swipe it to the left and then choose location, reminder, and home. So now as soon as I get home, it'll pop up with a notification on my screen reminding me of that email. That is, to me, it's something, like we said, it's something that's so small but such a needed and welcome change that it is just, I mean, it changes the whole experience of email. Just little changes like that make the whole experience so much better. So that's what I'm really excited about. The bundling and everything, that's something that I'll have to get used to and learn how I'm going to use it. But as far as the new features, man, are they awesome.
So one of the things I wanted to add, and it may be a little bit hard to see here, is so we were talking about, if you ordered something or you got shipping confirmation. So I ordered the Nexus 9 last week. And so, sorry, Alvie. Yeah, well, the Nexus 9 and Nexus Player. So what I just did is I just searched for Nexus in my email, and what it actually popped up at the top was almost a Google Now type card that it knew that in my email there was a receipt for the Nexus 9, and I could either view the order, which if I click on it actually opened up Best Buy, the Best Buy website, which is where I pre-ordered it from, and actually took me to the order page. Or I could open the original email. So just things like that, things that you don't even think about. How many times you search through your email for a tracking number or an order confirmation or airline flights. I can't wait till I actually go on a flight again, because I can't wait to see what Google Inbox is going to do with the flight information. If it could just pop that boarding pass or whatever right there at the top, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I've got a train trip coming up soon, and it saw that. Yeah, I've heard a couple people ask, can you add other email accounts into it yet? I've integrated my email into Gmail to begin with, and so it does parse that stuff and does bundle that stuff over like it should. And so yeah, I'm interested to see what happens on our train trip, if it's gonna print out tickets or bring up tickets or whatever. But it does see it in there, and it is in the travel tab or travel bundle. So, Joe, you got a question for us from somebody?
Yeah. So Nolan Hutwalker just posted on our event page on Google Plus, and he's asking, do you see expandability to other email clients like Exchange? So in regards to kind of the features and stuff we're seeing with Inbox.
Tony?
I don't think so. I don't think that. I mean, Google's never been, good guy Google has never been one to hoard services and make you only use their products until Android Wear, I think, was the first big one where they said no, you have to have Android for it to be compatible. Everything else, pretty much, they'll make a version for iOS. As far as apps go, I mean, there's a version of this app for iOS, so they're not that kind of company. But I think ultimately it's going to be something that they want to use to unify your Google accounts, because they know people like us, like me. I have, including Google and Google Apps, I have like seven, I think, Google and Google Apps accounts altogether. I have 3 Gmail accounts, and the rest are all Google Apps for work accounts that I use for different, places I contribute to and actual jobs. So to me, I think that this is a way that eventually, when we get Google Apps access, I think it's a way to unify all of that in one place and have a good place for that. I mean, it's possible that they could bring it for other services, but I just don't see that as being something, like, I don't see why they would put any effort into that, because ultimately they would just want everybody to be using Google.
Well, Exchange, no. I'm going to tell you probably no right now. And the reason is not a Google issue. The reason is a business issue. You know, a lot of companies, you know, they have corporate Exchange accounts, and they're not going to want Google siphoning off those emails to be able to do things like the bundles and those kind of things. They're just not going to want to do it. So I don't actually think Google's going to waste their time supporting Exchange. Google Apps, yes. Exchange, nah, I don't think they'll waste their time with it.
I really don't think that it's really that hard for them it's going to be that hard for them to implement it. Honestly, they've already got the hard part done. They've got the email client built. What I would really like to see is just the ability to add any standard POP or IMAP email. It's not that hard. I mean, Gmail, all it is an IMAP email account. So if they were going to want to branch out and get more people to use their apps, because honestly, there are a lot of people who use Gmail. I use Gmail for a lot of my stuff, but I also have a lot of Outlook accounts. I have other accounts that I would love to be able to tie in with Inbox. So even if they don't add official support for, say, Office 365 or Exchange or whatever, I would really love to see them add the ability to just add a standard POP3 or IMAP email account for self-hosted or any other service. And it's not going to be that hard for them to do it.
But will it have as many features? I mean, is this just as simple as, oh, they inputted the server settings into this new web client and this new app client, and now you can use Inbox? Or is it a deeper integration with the service? Because I mean, I don't know anything about that, so I mean, I would be interested to find out. But is it going to be as simple as just, oh, let's just put the server settings in there, and now you can have any email account on this service?
I mean, from what it looks like to me, they're really not doing any deep linking with Google. I mean, they are with Google Now and stuff, but truly it looks like the inbox is just scraping what the information is inside of the email itself and using that to sort. I really don't know a whole lot about that. I don't know if maybe Chuck or somebody else knows a little more about how the stuff like that would work, but that's how it looks like it probably works to me.
So the thing is it's based on the Google Now backend, is my understanding. So it's unfortunately parsing through an email live time is very difficult. So Google has the mining backend, these massive server farms to be able to do this processing on the backend, which makes it seem instantaneous, to us. But it's because they've got all this processing power and this, kind of, I don't want to call it cognitive learning, but this, idea of this, machine learning on the back end that they can, intelligently sort all this stuff out. So I don't think just adding an IMAP account to your phone would be enough. Now, if you hook the IMAP account into your Gmail account, where they could maybe pull it in somehow through Gmail and their backend services, I don't know, maybe. But I think right now it's too dependent.
My Yahoo's doing that, and it's scraping. Because that's where I got my travel information.
Okay.
You've got that redirected already into your Gmail account, which means it's forwarding on there, so it's already on Google's servers. Yeah,
I don't forward in my mail. It's actually part of my Gmail, like where you can attach it and it does it all for you. I don't know the terms that it uses, but yeah, it's not. I don't forward my Yahoo to my Gmail. Like inside of Gmail, it collects it and it owns that. So yeah.
Well, another news story I want to touch on real quick. So we talk about OnePlus quite a bit here on the show. We talk about them for the past 2-3 shows, and earlier this week they made quite a bit of news. They announced finally, after months and months of waiting, that they will be opening up pre-orders for the OnePlus One, and the pre-orders will start October 27th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. They've got a list of all the time zone times on their website at oneplus.net. But the catch is the pre-orders are actually only going to be open for a 1-hour window. So at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 1 hour, you can pre-order the OnePlus One, and they have set it up on the website to where you can actually create your order and pick out accessories, and they're actually going to give a $5 discount on those JBL earbuds that they put on the accessories page a few days ago. So you can actually get your order all set up and ready to go. But the kind of downside of this is, we finally got OnePlus One pre-orders, but a 1-hour window at 11 a.m. on a weekday afternoon is not a great time for a lot of people here in the Eastern Time Zone, wherever that time zone works out for you. So, OnePlus, they tried and they made an attempt to kind of get above all the criticism they've been getting, and then they just sink it with only opening it for 1 hour. So I don't know if you guys have any additional thoughts on the way they're handling the pre-orders with this 1 hour window.
Well, it just seems like they can't get any of their stuff together. Like,
so
a team back there that goes just, is there like one boss that says, "Yes, boss, that sounds great, boss. Yeah, boss, do that." Like,
all I'm gonna say is now, obviously OnePlus is not the magnitude of Apple or Google, but Apple servers crashed when they released the iPhones. Google servers generally crash when they release. Now the Nexus they didn't, although let's see what happens with the Nexus 6. When they release I/O tickets, their servers crash. So massive companies like Apple and Google can't keep servers up when something's in high demand. Now, I'm making the assumption that on the order of magnitude, the demand for OnePlus is equivalent to, on the size of scale of a company like OnePlus, is equivalent to the demand of a company like Apple and what their resources are. So can they keep their servers running for an hour to actually get these pre-orders in?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Good
That's a good
question.
point.
The funny thing about the OnePlus One invites in my book, sorry, Joe.
Oh, no, you're fine.
But the funny thing about the OnePlus One invites in my book is when I come across an invite or a bunch of invites to give away, if we do something like this where we're giving them away publicly, yeah, they all get given away, they all get used. That's fine. But when I come across one and I want to give it to a friend, I actually do struggle to find a friend to give the invite to who wants the phone anymore. Because at this point, in the tech community, and I hate to make a generalization like this, but in the tech community of people like us who are in the tech community and writing or doing a podcast or doing a hangout like this, everyone who wants one and can use one has one or has had one, to the point where we now are, either looking to upgrade or we're happy with it. Now the issue with that is the people who don't have them are the people who are jointed from the tech community and are just trying to beg on every post they see on Google Plus, which I'm sorry, those are just not the people I'm looking to give invites to when I have them. So that's the interesting thing about the invite thing. I think that there will be a lot of people who will rush the pre-order thing, but being at 11 a.m. Eastern time, that puts it at, 8 a.m. Pacific. So it's not like you're just getting earlier as you go across the country, and I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of U.S. draw for pre-order. I think it's going to be other countries that are going to be hopping on it and dominating that.
Right, like the time.
What's that?
Sorry?
Maybe by design, you think, doing it that way?
I don't know. I seriously doubt it. I mean, they've got a lot of OnePlus Ones in every country now, so I wouldn't think it's. And mind you, everybody, well, at least CyanogenMod, they're all from the U.S., and I would think that they would want to bring it here more, and also remember, some other countries can buy the OnePlus One without an invite. You can buy it from OppoMart for like $500. It's just not the U.S. version. You can go on and buy it right now and have it shipped here. It just won't work with your carrier the correct way. It'll work, it just won't do LTE. So it's only the invite system is only affecting a few countries.
I got you. Cool. Well, let's just in respect of time, let's go ahead and move. We got a bunch of other stuff. There's some LG stuff Joe wants to go over. We got the G-Watch R. That was released and hopefully coming out soon, and the G3 screen information. Joe, what you got for us? What's brewing?
Well, we're going to talk about the LG G-Watch R real quick. G-Watch R, for those of you that don't know, it is the second announced round, or really the actual circular round display for an Android Wear product we've seen so far. And it's got a very analog-looking design, and LG actually made an announcement saying that, quote-unquote, it'll be available throughout Europe, countries like France, Italy, stuff like that. This will be starting in early November, and they said it'll be coming to North America and different markets like that soon after. So we still don't really have a confirmed date for when the G-Watch R will be coming to North America, but it's going to be in Europe in early November. Pretty much guessing we're going to see it here sometime in the U.S. relatively soon. So are any of you guys still interested in the G-Watch R at all after the Moto 360 and all that?
Not after seeing the display cut off in the corners. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. You froze again, Tony. Personally, I'm still waiting to see what the price is. I mean, more than anything else, that's pretty much the big question at this point, aside from when is it going to come out. I mean, LG said that it's going to be in the coming weeks in the U.S. and starting in early November for Europe. So, I mean, we pretty much have that question answered. But the price is, everyone's guessing anywhere between $275 and $350, and a lot of that range is just far too much for a watch that's going to be outdated in a year.
Yeah, and seeing more of it, I'm more and more unimpressed with the more I see of it. It's thicker than it should be. There's way too much bulk on it. Doesn't sit on your wrist right. So, me personally, and I've voiced this a bunch, the Asus ZenWatch is what I'm really looking forward to, which should be coming out soon for around $200 US. So that's what I'm more excited about, and less excited about the G-Watch R. Even though it's fully round, it doesn't have the flat tire. It really just doesn't interest me like it did when they first announced it at IFA.
Well, it's like you said the other day. If we see the same corner cutoff thing in all these round watches, and they're just not going to catch on.
Well, let me ask a question. We know that basically the Google's version of the Motorola Active Display is coming to Lollipop, and we also know that Always Listening via Google Now is coming on. So with those two things, do you see a huge need for a watch anymore? Since I've gotten my Moto X, I haven't worn my Gear Live once.
I do, and here's why. Displays are getting bigger, and they're more difficult to. They're unwieldy, however you say that. They're huge, like mine. I mean, I got my 6.5 inch. It's tough to manipulate on the go. But with a watch or a wearable, yeah, I think they're still going to be around. I think, yeah, like what you're talking about, they'll have to change maybe a little bit because phones and devices are getting a little better. But me, and I've talked about it before. I'm going to use a tablet as my next phone. I don't have cell service or anything like that. So yeah, absolutely. Being able to just quick reply or look at something real quick. Yeah, I think it's still going to be around, but it may just have to change a little bit from that original Gen 1 stuff.
Yeah, and I can agree with Alvie on that too, because actually, I believe a couple days ago, earlier this week, you saw Google announce that Android Wear devices, all the current ones, the upcoming Sony Smartwatch 3, and I'm guessing the G-Watch R and the Asus ZenWatch, they're getting an update to 4.4 W2, I believe, is the new update for it, where it's actually able to store music locally on it, and it's going to get GPS technology support in there too. So I know, me personally, I go out biking and running a lot, and as much as I love my OnePlus One, it is not fun to stick into my pockets while I'm trying to go on a run or a bike or something. So having local music on there, putting some Bluetooth earbuds or headphones with it, I can see stuff like that really being useful. Stuff that, especially for these larger size phones, and as Alvie said, that's where the market's going. We saw Google do it with the Nexus 6, that's got a 5.9-inch display. Apple did it with the iPhone 6 Plus, which has a 5.5-inch display. So, I mean, the market is obviously going towards these bigger phones. So, I mean, with these updates for local music storage and GPS sensor support, if we just see more updates like that come that increase the functionality of these watches, I do think that we're going to still see a market exist for them. And before we get too far out of our time for the news, there's one more LG announcement actually that came today. We saw some leaks for it earlier. It's called the LG G3 Screen. This was a bit of news to me, but it's actually pretty interesting. The phone itself isn't anything too impressive. You're looking at a 5.9-inch display, 1920 by 1080p IPS display, a 2.1 megapixel front-facing camera, 13 megapixels on the back, 2 gigs of RAM, 3,000 milliamp hour battery, Android 4.4. So nothing really too impressive that we haven't seen before. But the interesting thing here is that the G3 Screen, LG has actually made their very own processor for this phone. So the new processor is called the NUCLUN. It's their first mobile processor. It's an 8-core architecture. It supports LTE A Cat6, which is very awesome to have on that. It's supported with a high-performance 1.5 gigahertz ARM Cortex-A15 processor with 4 additional 1.2 gigahertz ARM Cortex-A7 cores for kind of lesser demanding tasks where you've got that 1.5 gigahertz for kind of high-end games and all that. So weren't really expecting, at least I hadn't heard anything about LG making their own processor. We see Samsung do it with the Exynos chipset, so with LG making their own processor, it's kind of interesting. We're seeing kind of the two biggest OEMs for Android smartphones become less reliant on Qualcomm. Now, of course, for Samsung, we still see they're handset or their flagship smartphones that come to the States, they get the Qualcomm Snapdragon processors, but there are other units that get the Exynos chips. So we're not really sure if the LG G3 screen, which is a wonderful name for the phone, if those processors are going to come to the U.S. as well, if they're going to stay in other markets. So just kind of interesting, a bit of news. I hadn't heard anything about that. It's an interesting little bit of tidbit there to kind of see these OEMs producing their own chipsets and not relying on Qualcomm or these other processor manufacturers.
Yeah, this is the last time I saw a chipset that was at least written this way. Now, I don't know the ones and zeros like Chuck might to understand how it's built, but the last time I saw a device that was designed this way was the Meizu MX2 or MX3, which had a dual quad-core setup. It had 2 quad cores, one for basically standby mode and one for high-end gaming and stuff like that. So that might be what they're going for here, maybe that. But I didn't hear. The thing I was excited about for that was because it had 128 gigabyte of internal storage. Yeah. But they may be going for something like Meizu was going for with that device.
The Samsung Xenos, or their new Xenos chipsets, they call them their big littles. Now they're not 8-core. I don't think they're 8-core. I think they're still only quad-core. Or maybe they're 8-core, I don't know. But anyway, basically what they do is they've got either a pair of A7s and a pair of A15 ARM processors, and it's for exactly that reason. They use the A7s when they want to go into power saving mode, and they kick up the A15s when you actually need the juice. And the idea behind it is, you've got the juice when you need it, but then you crank back down to the older, more power efficient chipsets in the A7s when you don't need it.
Interesting. Well, there's some other news about Microsoft rebranding Nokia. And Patrick, I know you've got plenty of opinions to share about that. First off, tell us what happened, and then tell us what you think about it.
Okay. So basically, Microsoft, everybody knew that they bought Nokia and everything, and everybody knew this was coming, but nobody really wanted it to happen. And honestly, I'm one of the people who really don't mind it happening. Microsoft bought Nokia, and I think that was one of the best things that could happen for Nokia. They were the #1 manufacturer for Microsoft for Windows phones, and they sold the most Windows phones for a reason. They made a great product. I've got 3 or 4 sitting around me and a couple in the other room. I love Nokia Windows phones. I love the Lumia line. But it's been a long time coming when Microsoft was going to rename to the Microsoft Lumia, and honestly, I don't know why everybody's so up in arms about it. It's truly, in my opinion, it's going to be the next step forward in the Microsoft Unity. They own Nokia, so why wouldn't they rename to match? I mean, they have the Microsoft Surface. They have now the Microsoft phone, the Microsoft Lumia. It's their next step to making, just like Apple. Apple has the iPhone. Apple has the iPad. Apple has the MacBook. Microsoft has the Surface. Microsoft has the Windows Phone. But it's only ever been Windows Phone. It's only ever been operating system up until this point. Microsoft has never had their own phone, and now they do. This is their first step entering into their own mobile phone game versus just, oh, it's the Nokia phone that runs Microsoft. It's owned by them, but it just runs it. Kind of like when Google bought Motorola. Google bought Motorola, and it was still Motorola phones. It was never the Google phone. And even with the Nexus line, it is still the Motorola Nexus 6. It's not the Google Nexus 6. So this is Microsoft's next step into really trying to secure their foothold into the mobile phone technology and the mobile phone world, in my opinion. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think about it?
I tend to agree with you, Patrick. I think it's been a long time coming for Microsoft. They were, as everybody knows, they were kind of late in the game to really make a strong play into mobile technology. Almost nothing happened in the Gates era, and there was motion in the Ballmer era, but not too much ground was covered. They didn't make too much headway into the market, and From what I've seen, and you seem to be backing that up more than me. I've only handled a few, but the Nokia Lumia Windows phones are good products, the high-end ones and the low-end ones, and I think it's part of their maturation process as kind of ripening of their products.
What I wonder is if this is going to lead to Microsoft only having one flagship phone. Like Nokia had a pretty broad lineup of low-end to high-end devices, but if they're going to just kind of absorb Nokia, I wonder if it's just going to be the Microsoft Lumia phone. Like there's just one Surface every year.
Well, with how many budget devices that they sell, I think that would be a mistake because so many. I never hear of anyone buying the expensive Lumias. Very, very rarely. But the $100 Lumias I see them all over.
Well, and here's the thing. They do release one Surface every year, but they release it in two versions. They release the budget version, they release their RT, and then they release their Pro version, which the Pro version can get upwards of $2,000. So you do have the two areas. And with the merging of Windows RT and Windows Phone coming into one, I think we're going to see it more and more, maybe with the bigger phones, kind of like the 1520 or the 1320 we're going to be looking at tonight. I think we're going to see more of those morphing in with the Surface RT in the higher end, and then we're going to see more phones like the Lumia 635, the Lumia, the 520s, the 521s, all of those phones. I think, like Tony said, they're going to be shooting themselves in the foot if they kill that line, because that's where their bread and butter is right now.
I agree.
Well, you talk about the Nokia. Joe's got an Espresso Shot. Are you ready for that, Joe?
I'm ready for that.
Off, but I'm excited to find out about it. It's our mini review that we do every week. Joe brings an Espresso Shot. It's a mini review, and this week he's got the Nokia Lumia 1320. So is that now the Microsoft Lumia 1320?
Well, no, we still got Nokia here, but just one more thing for the Nokia Microsoft story. Microsoft did say they're going to continue to support like the Lumia 1320, all these other existing Nokia products still, which is good to hear. Even though they're rebranding it, you still have support coming to those existing Nokia devices. But for the Lumia 1320, I got this sent to me to the awesome people at Nokia. This is the Lumia 1320. It's exclusively available here on Cricket in the United States, and Cricket is a no-contract service provider where they use AT&T's towers, and they have really great plans. I actually brought my OnePlus One over there to their service past week. But for the 1320, this thing costs $279 with Cricket or directly through Nokia. And right off the bat, you can see right there, this is a huge, gigantic phone. I'll put it next to my OnePlus One, and you can kind of see the size difference right there is pretty big. This is a 6-inch display, which I'm a huge fan of these large-size phones. I'm a sucker for that's a 6-inch display and above. I love having all that screen real estate for watching movies or any type of media or playing games. You can see right here that it's actually relatively thin. It feels really good in the hand. One thing I don't like too much about the design, as much as I love the back right here, that's a very, very bright orange color. The camera is not picking it up too well. The polycarbonate that Nokia used on here is extremely slippery, and that doesn't help when you've got a phone that's practically bigger than my face right here. So I did have a hard time kind of reaching all four corners of the screen with such a slippery backside. So I can't see that aspect of it being a little bit annoying. With the display though, this is a 6-inch display resolution. It's 1280 by 720p HD. So you have just under 250 pixels per inch when we've come to expect, 450 plus or 500 plus pixels per inch on a display. I was a bit wary at first, but actually, again, camera doesn't pick it up too well here on Hangouts, but it actually looks really good. Now, if you get up close to it, you can see some fuzziness in text when you're looking at the display. But for just all general purposes, it looks fine on here. Performance, once again, this is a Snapdragon 400 processor. That's a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core unit and 1 gigabyte of RAM. And especially on Windows Phone, it runs really, really nice. You can see right there, just going through like your start screen here and going through all your applications is a very snappy process, which nothing that's old for Microsoft or the Windows Phone platform. We've seen time and time again that lower-end chipsets just work better on the Windows Phone platform just because it's a lot less intensive than the Android OS. Now, probably one of the best things about the phone in regards to overall is the battery life. Now, I was able to get a pretty heavy usage out of this thing. We're talking playing Asphalt 8 on here, browsing a lot of email, streaming a lot of HD video, and it actually got me through 2 full days of solid use on here. And I'm really impressed by that, especially talking for a device that's $280 unlocked or through Cricket, however, whichever way you want to go. it's a really awesome to be able to get 2 days of use. Now, even on my OnePlus One, because I've got a Bluetooth connection with my Android Wear, I have a hard time getting through 2 full days. So getting a full 2 days of constant use on here is a really awesome thing. Now I'm going to share real quick on a screen share just kind of the camera performance I got. You do have a 5 megapixel camera on here with LED flash on the back. And unfortunately, that's probably the weakest point of the camera. You can see right there of the wonderful cat. It's incredibly blurry. Low light performance is pretty much out of the question for the phone. The flash doesn't help at all. It really deteriorates from the pictures even more. You do get a bit more detail, but it's still nothing you really want to frame or even put on Facebook or Twitter. Shots really just don't have a lot of detail to them at all. You can see there's a lot of digital noise really present, and this was a cloudy day, but it's still not too dark out. And pictures just really don't turn out all that great. Now, if you're uploading just directly to, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, your different social media sites, it'll probably be fine. But this really is probably the weakest point for the device, and that's really nothing new for these budget smartphones. Usually, the biggest area that does take a hit when we're talking the 300 sub unlocked price for a smartphone is the camera. So that's really not a surprise, but it is a disappointment when pretty much everything else runs so great on the phone. The Snapdragon 400 really is awesome. I was able to play Asphalt 8 on here and have really no lag at all, which is, again, impressive. I love, the Snapdragon 800, the 801, the 805. Those are never going to compare, or the Snapdragon 400 is never going to compare to those high-end chipsets. But for these budget smartphones, that's a very comparable processing package, and especially coupled with Windows Phone on here is an awesome deal. Now, you do have Windows Phone 8.1. It actually came with Windows Phone 8, but right out of the box there was an update to 8.1. And with that, you do have the introduction of the Action Center, which is basically Microsoft's introduction to the wonderful world of a drop-down notification bar, which they just got recently. It took them a while to get it, but it is nice to have it on here. You also have Cortana, which is their voice assistant, which I kind of talked about in my review for the Nokia Lumia 635. That's probably my favorite feature for Windows Phone 8.1. So all around, you're talking $280. Awesome screen size right here. Although it's only 720p, it still looks pretty good. Snapdragon 400 runs through pretty much everything. It runs really great on Windows Phone. Camera is a bit of a downside, but then you couple in the battery life, the price, the overall performance of it. Well, this really is an awesome phone. If you like big size devices, 6 inches and above, you like having that screen size to consume your media, your games, your movies, your TV shows, whatever it may be. Maybe you just want to try Windows Phone. $280 is not a bad way to get into this. I'm really seriously considering picking one up myself. I'd probably just use my OnePlus One for my camera, but having a Windows Phone on a device that runs surprisingly well, has an awesome screen, and really is that cheap is definitely something I would pick up. So if you like big-sized phones, or you're looking to get into Cricket Wireless, or you just want to try out Windows Phone on a large-sized smartphone, this is probably one of my favorite Windows Phone devices I ever reviewed, even though it is a quote-unquote budget device.
I have a question for you. Great Espresso Shot, by the way. But you mentioned like the specs are a little lower than pretty much most Android stuff is what we're more comfortable with. Why is Windows and Apple better at lower specs than Android is?
That
may be a question for Chuck or somebody else, but you mentioned it on a few different phones. And it just really seems like lower specs on those two platforms work great, where Android really needs Tony's 3 gigs of RAM and all that kind of stuff to really do it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
I'll let you take it here in a second because you know more about this than I do. But in the time that I reviewed a lot of budget smartphones, and the HTC One Remix on here, this has a Snapdragon 400 as well. It does have half a gig more RAM, but this still runs really great. It's the same processor in here, and it does have HTC Sense layered over it, and it still runs really smoothly. I just think with Windows Phone, it's less intensive on the processor, and Windows Phone has always been a very smooth operating system, even since the really early days of Windows Phone 7. So like I said, this is kind of out of my area of knowledge, but I just think it all has to do with the requirements of the operating system. Windows Phone has just always generally been a really fluid OS, so I don't know, Chuck can probably add a lot more to this than I can, but I just know, I'm guessing it has to do with the processor intensity that the OSs require. I'm going to stop talking now before I start saying stuff I don't know about. I'll let Chuck go ahead.
Well, there's
I
kind
can
of
ask questions all day long. I have no answers though. Go ahead, Chuck.
there's a couple big things. So iOS specifically is very tightly controlled over what apps can do in the background. So Android's open. You want to do anything in the background? Have at it. Do whatever you want. There's a system called Wake Locks in Android. Anyone who's an Android person is familiar with Wake Locks. Basically, if an app wants to do something in the background of Android, Android says, do your thing, have fun, let us know when you're done. Which, unfortunately, a lot of times leads to substantial power drain and substantially more processor use on Android devices. Good or bad, now Android developers are getting much more cognizant about it, so it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. You don't see as many apps these days running around with superpower, and Android in recent versions has done a lot to tweak the OS to make it run substantially faster on lower end devices. That was one of the kind of the things behind Lollipop is to run on what is it, less than 512 meg devices. Was that Lollipop or KitKat? I can't remember which one. Anyway, one of the two of them.
KitKat.
But KitKat, okay. But so Windows Phone is kind of similar to iOS in the fact that it just doesn't let the app run in the background. It will let the app request to run certain things in the background, but they run on a very, very tightly controlled thread that if the thread starts running away, will get killed by the OS. So Windows Phone and iOS both do that. So because they don't allow the entire app, they only allow certain, actually it's driven through the API, certain things to run in the background. There's less background requirements to be able to run on lesser devices.
So, question for you, Chuck.
Now,
oh, sorry. Let me just jump in real quick because I'll forget. Under developer options on Android, you can background process limit to so many processes. Does that help? If we say like limit to 2 processes, does that kill stuff, or is that more detrimental to the system?
I would say it's more. So, Android's really designed to let. Yeah, it's Android's really designed to let things run in the background. These days, honestly, like Joe said, even that Snapdragon 400 on the E8 runs pretty well. Android these days, runs pretty well even on more limited hardware. You're probably more likely to be detrimental by limiting the background because you're going to kill an app, and the app's going to try and respawn itself if it really wants to run in the background.
Gotcha.
That's why people always say don't use task killers. They're really more detrimental than they are helpful.
I gotcha. Okay. Sorry, Patrick. Didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, bud.
No problem. Another big thing is if you use a Samsung phone, you'll notice TouchWiz. And the biggest thing, and I'm just going to use Samsung, and I'm just going to throw them under the bus with this, their ROM itself takes up almost 8 gigabytes of storage on your phone. And it is just so heavy and bloated that it's going to kill your battery life, kill your processing power, just kill everything on it. The thing with Apple and with Windows Phone is they design their operating system for a specific hardware set. And when you design your operating system to perform on a specific hardware set, you're going to have performance. That's why a MacBook runs so much better than a Windows computer, because they know it's going to be running on this hardware. So they can optimize for that. And then they can say, well, you can run other stuff, but we can't guarantee it's going to work wonderfully. That's why the Nexus runs so good, because Google designs the software to run on that hardware, and they just give you the bare minimum.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And that's why I've always loved Windows Phone, because Windows Phone, it just works. It doesn't need anything heavy on it. It doesn't need, like, I've got a 32 gig Galaxy S4, and I've got 8 gig taken up of just the operating system. So if you have a 16 gig phone, you really only have 8.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. I guess I wasn't putting that all together. Okay, cool. That makes sense to me. Sorry to kind of derail us a little bit. I've always wondered that question, and so I kind of have an answer. So hope everybody else does too. All right, so we're running low on time. So before we get into our wrap-ups and all that kind of stuff, let me share a little bit of something with our giveaways. We've got inbox invites to give away, and we've also got some cases to give away. Patrick here in just a second is going to go over all that with you. Here's how you enter to win if you're watching it later or on the podcast. Hashtag. Those are popular these days. The kiddies love hashtags on the socials. No, but on pretty much any social site that's out there, hashtag MCOJBrew, Mobile Cup of Joe Brew, BREW. So MCOJBrew, hashtag that with I want an invite or I want this specific case, and you'll be entered in to win. So we'll be picking that and drawing that throughout the week. So hopefully you'll have a chance to win some of these cases here. So Patrick, please share a little of each one, describe it so our podcast listeners know what they are too, and then we'll get on with our program.
Okay, for sure. I'll just kind of start out and hold them up. As you can see here, or if you're listening to the podcast, you can go on the Cruiser Light website. This is the HTC One M7 case, and it is the green XDA developer case. Here I've got a HTC One, another M7 case. This one is the blue Bug Droid circuit. And then I've got another green M7 case that is the... I believe this one is called the... It's not that one. Let's see. I don't know. It's one of them. It is their multiplied Android design. I forget the exact name of it. I've got the their smoke color for their regular Androidified 2 for the HTC M7, and then I've got a black Nexus 5 case that is their Android circuit as well, and then the HTC case that was their 3-piece case where you could choose the different colors. I forget where I got this from, but it is the blue and orange. I'm a Gator fan, so I mean you got to represent colors. So even though we're not doing that great, I'll still be a fan.
That's a true fan. That's a true fan.
Yes, so I've got that as well, and you can go see that. I believe it's called the HTC Duo case or something along that lines. But that's what we've got to give away. Tons of great, fun stuff. So be sure to enter.
Excellent, excellent, awesome. So yes, just to remind you, if you're watching or listening later, hashtag MCOJBrew, and you'll be entered in to win. Just let us know what you're looking for, which one you prefer to win, and then also if you want one of these inbox invites that we have to give away. All right, so before we talk about next week's show, which I'm really excited about, let's just go left to right here. What's going on, ones and zeros, Chuck? What's going on this week for you, bud?
What is going on this week? More work's about the only thing I've got, and trying to get through the week so I get to next week so I can get my Nexus 9, Nexus 6, and I'm hoping that the Nexus player ships at the same time all the rest of the Nexus stuff does, so I can have my trifecta.
I'm jealous. I want that Nexus 9 so bad. Okay, fair enough. Back from the dead, Fred. What's going on? What's brewing for you this week?
Living, working, keeping busy. On a side note, I played a real nice music show in Manhattan last night with an awesome singer and incredible bass player. I'll share some recordings of that with you guys as time moves forward, and I'm looking forward, although it's still a little bit of time away, a week or more away, to I believe it's called CES Unveiled in New York City, coming up, I believe, on the 11th of November. And this is sort of, sounds like it's sort of a preview to the actual CES show, which I think is in January. And that should be pretty exciting. It's a half a day in Manhattan, and a lot of the vendors are going to be there previewing stuff, I guess, in advance of the holiday season. And there should be all kinds of gadgets and gizmos and goodies, and hopefully I'll get some samples and lots of good stuff to talk about over there.
That's awesome. Man, I'm jealous of both of you guys. You're living in New York, so you got all this cool stuff to go to. Chuck's getting all the good, fun stuff. What about you, Joe? What's brewing over there for you for this coming up week?
Well, actually tomorrow I'm leaving with some family of mine. We're going to Frankenmuth, Michigan. Going there for about a day and a half just to kind of go visit it. It's a cool little German village. They've got outdoor malls. It's a big town for kind of startup breweries there. They've got Browners, which is the world's largest Christmas store. So going there, and I'm actually taking both the Lumia 1320 and the HTC One Remix to film some kind of B-roll footage there because it's beautiful in the fall. So going to get some cool eye candy for you in the reviews for those, which should be coming up hopefully towards the end of this next week. So really just going there, taking it easy for weekend, and then coming back to edit all of the footage for these reviews. So just keeping busy with the reviews for 2 phone reviews, which will be fun to edit back to back. So that's going to pretty much take up the length of my week.
Yeah, really, no doubt. All right, Tony, spec sheet 3 gigs of RAM. What's going on? What's brewing for you this week, bud?
Well, let's see. This weekend, I'm hoping we're going. My wife said she was going to take me to a zombie kill tomorrow night, which is like a hayride where you will be able to use paintballs to shoot the zombies that are running at the hayride. So that'll be the first time I've ever done anything like that. That sounds awesome. Sounds like a brilliant idea, and I'm pretty excited for that. I really hope we get to go. Aside from that, really looking forward to our Halloween show next week. I'm psyched for that. Got my costume already this past week. I got Saturdays off work from now on, so that's my big news for the week. My Saturdays off, man. That's awesome because now I only work 5 days a week. Joining the normal working Joes.
No, that's good.
Let's see. There was one big. Oh yes, I had a conference call today with a couple of good guys from PR at Epson Movirio, and they are going to be sending me out early next week the Epson Movirio BT200 Android headset. So it's not a head-mounted display for your phone. It's its own thing, and it's nothing like Google Glass. It's not something you'd wear in public. It is a head-mounted display bordering on virtual reality looking. If you look up some, I'm not going to put anything on the screen right now, but look up Epson Movirio, Moverio BT200, and you'll see what I mean. It's actually got a tethered controller which has all the operating processing power contained within it, and a touchpad to control. But they said it's good for things like people who are working in a factory who need to pull up information immediately about the machines they're working around, and watching Netflix. So everything in between. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on those and having my own little espresso shot, and maybe hopefully wear them on the show one week and give you guys some insight into that. So I'm definitely excited about that, and that's really what's coming up in the future for me.
Awesome, bunch of good stuff going on. Nick over at Tech Dissected, what's going on? What's brewing for you this week, bud?
So this week I'm going to be looking at the microphone that I used tonight and the last time that I was here. Hopefully finally get the review out for that. I finished the review for these headphones that I've been wearing all night tonight. That's on the website already. It published this morning. They are not the prettiest. Yeah, I know, right? They're not the best looking headphones in the world, but they do a very good job. So make sure you check out that review.
Yeah, definitely. We'll try to leave a link in the description for you too. Awesome. And then Patrick, our buddy from mine went blank. Where you from? Thank you. So sorry. What's going on? What's brewing this week for you? So sorry.
Not much. I mean, we're just coming out of our big screenshot giveaway we did in partnership with quite a few people. GadgtSpot turned 1 year on October 1st, so we are really excited about that. Excited to start our second year. The biggest thing we're really excited about is going to CES, so that's one of the biggest things that I'm looking forward to. I know it's not next week. It's in like 3 months, but it's something that we're really looking forward to. But this week, really, we just switched to T-Mobile a couple days ago, so I'm excited to really stress test their network, play with it on my Note 3, and actually got a couple LG L90s. Great little phone, $100. You really can't beat it. I absolutely love the phone for what it is. So I'll be playing with that. I'll be playing with T-Mobile and looking forward to CES.
Cool. Awesome. Bunch of good stuff from everybody. Okay. Super big news, and I'm really excited about it. If you catch us on Movi or you've watched our YouTube channel a little bit, you've seen us tease it and trailer and all that kind of stuff. Next week is Halloween. Halloween falls on Friday, so the show will be on Halloween night. But we're going to do it a little different. It's going to be a scary Hallow What's Brewing. Get it? I came up with that. I'm proud of myself on that. But anyway, it's going to be a special show, and it's going to be a midnight show. Midnight Eastern, 12 o'clock Eastern time. So midnight Friday night, Halloween night, and it's going to be scary, creepy kind of a show. We'll all be dressed in our costumes and garb. I've got two I'm actually playing with. I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with, but so we'll all be dressed up. We'll all be sharing scary stories or just terrifying things we've done with technology or with our phones or devices or anything like that. But it's going to be at midnight, and it's just going to be a blast. It's going to be a little different. It's going to be a little more relaxed. And I really hope that you guys will join us next Friday. It's Halloween night at midnight. So it won't be at 9. We won't do it until 12 o'clock. So that'll give everybody enough time to go do trick-or-treating or do whatever trunk or treats or anything like that you do and get back in and settled. And then you'll need a cup of Joe for that one because it's going to be kind of late if you're on the East Coast. So please join us for that, and we're really excited about it. I am especially. Check out the trailer. We'll post that all over socials here in just a bit. So just thanks a bunch for watching tonight and inviting us into your home. If you're listening to us or watching, thanks so much for being a part of What's Brewing for October 24th. On behalf of Chuck, Fred, Joe, Tony, Nick, Patrick, and myself, just thank you guys so much. We look forward to seeing you next week. If you have a comment or question, please leave it at #MCOJBrew. If you want to be entered into the contest or the invites, #MCOJBrew, and we'll be happy to answer or respond. But for everybody, that's it for tonight. Good night.
Good night.